Hey people, Positive Paul, Wednesday morning, January 3rd, 2024. And I wanted to quickly talk about this, something that I've been thinking about. And a lot of us who take spiritual warfare seriously, a lot of us who in a roundabout way, maybe, or direct involvement, know about these conspiracy theories, or at least some of them, the main conspiracies. But when we talk about these, I guess, aliens, if you want to put it that way, they obviously have access to this reality, this dimension. Earth, this world they have access to, but they come from somewhere else. Now, where that somewhere else is has been loosely defined. There's a scientific way of explaining it. You know, we live in a very vast solar system. We certainly aren't the only planet within our solar system, but also they're way, who knows? It's infinite. Galaxies far and beyond. But I find this interesting here in Hebrews. And as we see in chapter 1, God, who at sundry times and in divers manners spoke in time past unto the fathers by the prophets, hath in these last days spoken unto us by his Son. And my takeaway with this right here is Paul says in these last days. Now, when you're sitting here and you're reading this, and you can draw the conclusion that we are now essentially 2,000 years later, and he's talking about the last days then. Wow. It's, talk about hanging on by a thread, talk about patience and all that good stuff. But hath in these last days spoken unto us by his Son, whom he hath appointed heir of all things, by whom also he made the worlds. And my takeaway here today is worlds, plural. So we can consider where we currently reside, exist, is one world, but there are other worlds out there that were created. And this is where I see the conspiratorial narrative intersecting with the biblical narrative. And if we try to just, I guess, keep it simple, us as humans that follow the Word of God understand the consequences of being involved with these higher dimensional beings. There you go, one way of putting it. But we're told in Deuteronomy 18, at least the Levites were, and there could be general instructions for every human, is to stay away from these groups, individuals that keep contact, are able to possibly travel to these other worlds. But nonetheless, that is not for us as God-fearing individuals, people of faith and belief in Jesus. That's not for us. Now, what was the preface? Also in sundry times in divers manners spoke in time past unto the fathers by the prophets. So it goes again, testing spirits, understanding that if you believe you had a supernatural experience, heard from what you believe to be God, or however you identify this experience, you have to be careful. It could be coming from one of those groups found in Deuteronomy chapter 18, meaning the witches, the familiar spirits, the diviners, the enchanters, the observer of times, the necromancers. So now, in a modern era, when we are told that Joel 2:28 is in full effect, meaning the pouring out of the Spirit afterwards in these last days, that we need to be very careful in discerning on what we believe to be a supernatural experience, hearing from the heavenlies, or however, again, we've been, so much information's been thrown at us, and some of it we know is no good, and it's there to confuse us. But these worlds, these other dimensional beings, whether they're aliens, fallen angels, Lucifer himself, they are able to access this world, and they are able to exert some type of influence, some type of control. And I think that when we talk about all these conspiracy type issues, such as secret space program, where it's given the notion that this particular group within the United States are up there in outer space, zipping around in these reverse engineered UAP, UFO, anti-gravity craft type vehicles. But the question is, when you start to enter into these other worlds, it's like, picture this, people. You go to New York City. Let's say let's travel back in time, and you're in the mid 70s in New York City, when crime was running rampant, muggings were at an all-time high, and let's say you are visiting from somewhere other than the East Coast. You came in from, let's say, the Midwest to New York City, and you're not used to the hustle and bustle, and you don't really know exactly how to get around. And unfortunately, what happens is you may have ventured into the wrong neighborhood, and then you find yourself in a situation where maybe you're going to get mugged or worse. So when you see these people on social media that claim to astral travel and do all these things, which we know are possible, but the question is, once you step out of this world into one of these other worlds, you're asking for trouble. And the reason why here our guidance is to stay away from that. And we unfortunately have to walk in faith that we don't need to really worry about what's going on in those other worlds. If we keep our eye on the prize, which is salvation, and we do the things that we know are good, and one of it is trying to share the word of God. And I'm about giving up here in Mexico. Anybody I've tried to talk to, it's kind of sad. You can't get into the nuts and bolts of it, and it's just unfortunate. So my takeaway today is, as I keep reading Hebrews, I enjoy that. I enjoy chapter 13. Let brotherly love continue. And always be aware. Entertain strangers because you may have entertained angels unaware. So these other worlds, my recommendation is don't get too caught up in all this. And when you start to hear about these dopey conspiracy theories that are swirling about concerning Trump, white hats, secret space program, all these things, just remember that you're not supposed, this is not our fate as a modern God-fearing, believing in the Word of God and walking by faith. We can let these people do their thing, but the question is, are they going to be able to somehow prevent prophecy from occurring the way it's been laid out for us? And if we understand this, that I am the Alpha Omega, the end beginning, the first and last, that they can tell us how they're going to change the world, make it better. But prophecy is there for one reason. And we are in a time right now where, man, if things aren't revealed this year in 2024, timeline keeps stretching out, that's a big test of faith for a lot of us, specifically for me, because it seems like what we thought maybe 7-8 years ago, which will be the case, is actually going to start to begin this year. And these next 7 years will be a hell of a time. So anyway, just remember those other worlds out there. You never know who's lurking about. And once you step into one of those worlds, you never know what might happen. So be careful out there, kids. Peace to you all, people.